Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. So for all you Audie fans, he's across the room from me, sound asleep. His food order was delivered. It's sort of the Audie version of DoorDash, and he didn't even wake up for that. So I don't think he's going to be joining us. I think he's just crashed out for the duration. But if he does, of course, you know he'll make his presence known. Meantime, I decided to wear my little Audie necklace so that he would be with us, at least in spirit. We're going to take a quick look at the intro, and then we're going to get right into it. So, once again, the sock puppet is in hot water in Africa, which is interesting for a man who spends very little time in Africa and who seems to have no ambition. I always thought it took a certain amount of ambition to get into the kind of trouble he gets into, but it looks like I was wrong. So, here's the issue. Chad, which is a country in Central Africa. It's a pretty good-sized country. It's not, something teeny-tiny and inconsequential, has decided to break ties with African parks, and they are discussing issues like financial improprieties. Where have we heard that before? Let me give you a hint. That was just raised in the recent Steube investigations. And Chad owns some of the land. It's part of their country, their sovereign territory. Some of the land that has been administered by African parks. And no longer. Chad has thrown African parks out. And the sock puppet, who was formerly the president of African parks and is still on the board, had remained silent through all of the allegations of, I hate to call them human rights abuses, because that makes it sound like, maybe it's some technicality, or maybe somebody used the wrong pronouns. No, we're talking about physical harm and injury to people. People were allegedly beaten and other things that YouTube doesn't let me talk about at the hands of the park rangers. So, yeah, it's a big deal. And this is the second African parks related allegation in a relatively short period of time. The sock puppet has neither stood up for the organization nor stepped down from his position as a director. It's like he's hiding his head under the pillow, pretending nothing is happening. And it may not sound like that's such a big deal, but when we have one organization with two very significant scandals, and obviously beating people is significant, a financial inquiry that is so out of control that a nation is throwing African parks out of its country, oh, I'm sorry, you can't be here anymore, go away now, which is pretty much what Chad has done. These are not small issues. These are not little tempests in a teapot, and if you just ignore them, they'll go away. No, something needs to be done. And the sock puppet, who is very quick to jump up and scream foul anytime anything happens to him or his lovely wife, who just made a fuss recently over one of his fans getting a little too close to him in the UK. That's a problem. He had no problem with people in Texas getting close to him. And frankly, given the fact that the folks in Texas have all the guns, I'd be worried about them. So, yeah, it's like we're looking at just yet another instance of his double standards. If it presents a threat to him, now I don't know who this alleged stalker is, but I've seen photographs, and it appears to me that it is a relatively harmless middle-aged woman. He'll make a big deal out of that. But financial improprieties and people being beaten, no, he's just ignoring it. Steube, he certainly went to the mattresses on that one, but that was probably because Dr. Sophie Chanduka would not issue a statement exonerating his wife of any wrongdoing in making her crawl under a trophy, because heaven forbid she, Chanduka, would be in the center of the photograph. And right, she's only the chairperson of the organization, whereas Nutmeg, who has nothing whatsoever to do with Steube, was really the one who needed to be in the center of that photograph. You just can't make this stuff up. You know, let me just take a moment. There are times when I look at this and say, how much longer can this go on? You know, maybe it would be a good idea if I started transitioning to another kind of video, because eventually this is going to collapse, and frankly, these two, Nutmeg and the sock puppet, are the most boring creatures on the planet in and of themselves. But yeah, they're just going to keep going. It's never going to stop. I will be making these videos 5 years after I am dead and buried. And that's how bad it is. So yeah, that's the first part of it. Next, we go on to one of the sock puppet's other great loves, which is suing the British media. That's second only to suing the British government, because he really does want that security. So his lawsuit against the British press now, which is going to be heard in 2026, the judge has ruled that he cannot introduce allegations that Princess Catherine was targeted by inappropriate journalistic activity. And I have to be cautious about how I say this, because I don't know the exact nature of what Harry's legal team is alleging had been done to Catherine. I know all of the allegations about what had been done, but I don't know which allegations in particular Harry's legal team brought forward. They are described using a term called blagging. And blagging, the problem with blagging is a very broad term that can cover anything from, let's say a journalist goes into your doctor's office and flirts with the receptionist and persuades the receptionist to hand over a tidbit of information. That is blagging. Well, suppose the same journalist went into your doctor's office, whacked the receptionist in the head with a 2x4, crawled over the desk, went into the files, stole the records, clutched them to the breast, and fled into the night. Also blagging. It covers everything from persuasion and schmoozing, all the way up to robbery, to crime, to assaulting someone in order to get information. So, yeah, that term tells us almost nothing. Nevertheless, the judge had said no. The judge had said that it was too close to the start time of the trial, that the information was being introduced too late in the game. The newspapers have a right to have this information within enough time to prepare a defense. Also, there was a comment that the judge did not want this to turn into, now I am paraphrasing, basically a free-for-all where they can just expand the parameters of the lawsuit to include every instance of wrongdoing by any journalist going back to, well, to the introduction of newspapers. So, yeah. Now, obviously, that is what the sock puppet and the legal team is trying to do. We have Audie here, and the judge is not having any of it. Now, I find it just astoundingly hypocritical. That on one hand, the sock puppet will say the most egregious things about Catherine. He virtually called her a Stepford wife. He said that she was the one, well, Steube said, but the information had to have come from the sock puppet because allegedly he was the only one who heard these comments, which we established in the Oprah interview. He said that she was the one who made comments about the color of the baby's skin. And still, when it's convenient for him, he will drag Catherine's name through this because he feels it will help his lawsuit. It's like, yeah, crucify her one day and hide behind her skirts the next. The fact is, I think the reason he dragged Catherine into this is Catherine is a very, very popular figure in Great Britain. I think she's a very popular figure worldwide. But certainly I think she's very popular in Great Britain. And Catherine's cancer treatment has gotten her an awful lot of sympathy from everyone. And I think everyone has this sort of shared desire to want to just scoop this lovely woman up and say, no, we shall protect you from harm, which is a reasonable response. I think Harry wants to trade on that, this desire people have to protect Catherine. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with her recent illness. I think a lot of it has to do with her overall popularity. But yeah, I find it reprehensible myself. It's like you don't accuse someone of racism one day and then say, oh no, she's going to be the poster girl for my lawsuit the next. So that has been struck down. The courts are not going to allow this. And we'll have to see where it goes from here. Obviously, Catherine was targeted by some very inappropriate journalistic tactics. No question about that. Everyone wanted Catherine's story back in the days when she and William were dating. And the press was willing to go to great lengths to get it. Was she blagged in some of the more extreme senses of the word? I have no doubt that she was. Is Harry going to be able to use this to bolster his own case? No. Thank heavens. British judges still have some common sense left. All right, I'm going to have to put this guy down, so I will be right back. He doesn't want to go. Okay, cat sorted, back to business. Next up, I thought we would talk about Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet and that humanitarian award they received. I don't want to bother talking about the award. We all know about these awards. They are buying awards left, right, and sideways. It's just what they do. And it's not just that the Megxit community is talking about it now. Everybody's talking about it. And I think at this point, it's practically become a joke. That's not what we want to talk about, of course. What we want to talk about is the appearance of Nutmeg and Harry on the stage. And there can be no question that they were not getting along that evening. No question whatsoever. Does this mean, as has been speculated, that their marriage is over? Well, here's the thing. Just to play devil's advocate for a moment. We've watched these people for a while, and we know that the two of them, but especially our girl Nutmeg, will do absolutely anything for publicity. We know that. Will she go so far as to stage a fake row with Harry? I don't know. I don't know. I have to say, I put nothing past her. So with that caveat, let's look at this. Would she go on stage and willingly be snubbed. That seems unlikely to me. So in this case, I'm going to have to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. But what does it mean? Now, nobody ever really knows what goes on in someone else's marriage. We just don't know. And with Nutmeg, who lies about everything to the point where you couldn't get a straight story out of that woman if your life depended on it. And the sock puppet, although he tells everything, he is like the king of too much information, which is probably a good thing, because quite frankly, that's probably the only thing he's ever going to be king of. I hope he cherishes the title. Even though he will blab everything from the frozen Todger to the behind the pub in the grass losing his virginity, the man never knows when to shut up. We still don't know and never will know what's really gone on, because even though the sock puppet blabs everything, it's all from his own point of view, and his own point of view is not what I would call stable or reliable. Remember, this is the guy who thought his dead mother, who might not have been dead, came to him in the guise of a leopard. I keep saying that because I got to tell you, that is crazy. Not to put too fine a point on it, that's just plain nuts. So, can we rely on anything he says? Frankly, he still believes his mother is guiding his life. Sad, but definitely unreliable. We're never going to know what's going on. Nutmeg will lie. The sock puppet will fantasize. The truth is never going to come out, period. And we all need to accept that. But do I think there is more to this than, gee, they had a little row that night? Yeah, I kind of do. And I think if we look at what took place in Paris just before this, and people are saying, oh, he was probably hurt and offended about the whole Diana death tour ride Nutmeg filmed, which was insane and in bad taste. But is that enough? I'm not sure. But you gotta wonder, she was there with Marcus Anderson. She goes all kinds of places with Marcus Anderson. And she wasn't there with the sock puppet. We don't know why. It's not as if he needed to be some other place. He certainly could have gone there with her. Obviously, I think she didn't want him there, because if the two of them are there together in Europe, he, as the son of the king, is obviously going to be the more prominent person, and I don't think she likes sharing the spotlight. So I think there was a reason she didn't want him. Nevertheless, she's there with another man, Marcus Anderson, and then at some point in the evening, she hooked up with yet a third man. Because we got the sock puppet, we got Marcus, and then we got this younger man. And she was seriously flirting with this guy. And she was laying it on. And by the way, I got these pictures from all over the place, but I did pull some of them from the Royal Grift. I've got a link to her video in the video notes. Please check that out, because, of course, she documented this whole thing of Nutmeg meeting up with this guy, flirting with him, and frankly, the reason you want to do it is because her commentary is priceless. But still, this is probably the best place you can go to get more information, because I can't give you information on this. I don't know who this guy was. What I do know is Nutmeg was drooling all over him. And I gotta wonder, how is Harry going to feel about that? Is that what triggered the unpleasantness in New York shortly thereafter? I would have to say, if I were to guess, I would say yes, absolutely. I would think any man seeing films of his wife looking the way Nutmeg looked at this boy, any man would be upset about that. Even the sock puppet, who, as we know, is just a little man-child. But still, I think that would plug into all of his jealousies and insecurities. And who knows? It is entirely possible Nutmeg did this on purpose. Entirely possible. Would she go off and just pick up some guy to make Harry jealous? Maybe. I would not put it past her. Let me put it that way. Could it be that is the source of contention in their otherwise blissful little marriage? I'd bet on it. It's like, seriously, I would bet on it. I would be willing to bet that Harry would not be anywhere near as upset about the Diana death tour, which I'm sure Nutmeg could talk him down from easily enough if he were upset and she wanted to keep him sweet. But kissing and making goo-goo eyes at another man, I don't know what to say. The look she gave this guy was the same look that Nancy Reagan used to give to Ronald. And the media just ate that up with a spoon. So yeah, I would have to say that, to me, is probably what is irritating the sock puppet. Do I know where any of this is going? No. I have to say that a lot of people have been insisting for a long time, months in some cases, years in others, that Nutmeg and the sock puppet are not together. They are living separate lives. That all that nonsense about they were going to pursue separate opportunities, separate their brands, was in fact a separation of their lives. I don't know if that is true. It could be. It wouldn't surprise me. On the other hand, it wouldn't surprise me if they are still together and for some reason simply decided that a little marital discord might be enough to get them back on the front pages again, because Nutmeg cannot bear not to be on the front pages. And certainly, she is very unlikely to want to irritate Harry past the point of being able to reel him back in again if she needs to. So who knows? Whatever is going on in their relationship, with Nutmeg cosplaying Diana, with Harry keeping his dead mother's hair on the box beside his bed, presumably the same bed in which he gets cozy with his wife with mommy's hair 2 feet away. It's too freaky for me to even begin to unravel. So, am I prepared to make speculations about what's going on? Well, yes. Whatever it is, it's going to be downright crazy. That I'm willing to speculate on. Beyond that, no. So, that I'm throwing out as food for thought. Is this really something, that cold shoulder he gave her, is this really something that we think could have come from her and the Diana tour? I don't know. Maybe. Certainly some people think so. My personal feeling is maybe we should be looking a little deeper. Maybe it's a little more than that. Maybe it's Nutmeg going off with Marcus Anderson instead of her husband. Maybe it's Nutmeg making moony eyes at some strange young man, and I don't even know who he is. One thing I can say is it's probably not a close relative of hers, because heaven knows she has nothing to do with her family. So I don't think she's going to be able to pass him off as a long-lost cousin. I think what we may be looking at is either Nutmeg is looking around for the next ex, or she's looking around to find ways to make the sock puppet jealous as a means of reeling him back in. This is possible given the fact that he's openly said he would like to spend more time in the UK. Could be. All right, now I realize a lot of this is speculative, but we have notes on everything in the video notes, and everything that's speculation, like I say, I always tell you that. So that is what I have for you today. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all again next time, and as always, have a terrific day.